When you're small, as we are, and not very powerful internationally as we are, it is right to be fearful of certain things, especially when you could be arming your detractors, Spain, by your decision. And therefore, it's right that we in Gibraltar should fear the consequences of exit. And please, I would urge people not to fall for, not to accept the arguments of the Leave campaign, which says outside of the EU, Britain will be better able to protect our sovereignty. Well, look, that's a nonsense argument. People in Gibraltar have long enough memories. We have 40 years of experience of the fact that although Britain will stand by its basic commitment not to hand over our sovereignty without our consent, beyond that, and on practical issues like defending our waters from incursions or protecting Gibraltar from being excluded from from aviation measures, from international treaties, from international sporting and cultural federations, from any of these challenges to our interests. The UK has 40 years of quite a poor record of taking practical action to defend our sovereignty in the day-to-day ways that it's affected and which we would suffer. The best protection, although it's not been perfect, the best protection for Gibraltar against possible Spanish more aggressive behaviour towards Gibraltar is what it is free and not free to do to us, in accordance with EU law, with its EU obligations and with our EU rights. And look, economically we have for 35 years worked hard, one government after another in Gibraltar, to reposition our economy, to refocus our economy so that it's designed now as a pretty lean machine which has been specifically designed and created to take advantage of the opportunities that our EU membership gives us. If we leave the EU, we no longer have those advantages. And that will result in job losses. It will result in a drop in government revenue. With the drop in government revenue will come the need for governments to tighten its belt. Tightening government belts mean less public expenditure, perhaps stopping to do some of the things that we cherish, we get for free from the government, free university education, things of that sort. Perhaps the government will be less able to afford to do some of the things that it does cheaper for us. Subsidise our electricity, subsidise our public housing, subsidise our 50-50 schemes, things of that sort. So there are practical consequences for people in Gibraltar of the bottom being ripped out of our socio-economic model. We enjoy a huge standard of living in Gibraltar, and it's all because we have been able to benefit from the opportunities that our EU membership has given us. I think it would be wrong. Why would we deprive our children and our grandchildren of the opportunity to enjoy the same standard of living that we have enjoyed? Somebody who has spent 16 years adding his grain of salt and doing what he can to create the modern and prosperous and politically more secure Gibraltar that we enjoy today, I would beg everybody listening tonight, please, to vote Remain in the EU. I cannot think of a good reason, not a single one, why anyone who really cares about Gibraltar's future might think that they are advancing it by voting to leave.
At this stage, just before the referendum, the focus is still very much in campaigning, in this case to remain. But with the polls so close, should Gibraltar's politicians be focusing more on contingency planning in the event of a Brexit?
No, I think it's correct that we all focus on getting the right result at the elections. There is plenty of time to cry over the spilt milk and to try and mop as much of it up as possible. Now is not the moment for that.
Looking at the situation as it is now and also drawing on your years of political experience, what do you think is going to happen?
We should ignore the polls. We should all go out to vote, as we have done in all the referendums, where Gibraltar's fundamental interests are at stake. This is much more important than choosing a government. A government in 4 years can do much less harm to a country, including Gibraltar, than the consequences of Gibraltar leaving the EU, which is forever. So I think that we should, whatever the poll says, as we always do when Gibraltar's fundamental interests are at stake, unite and act in large numbers together in whatever is Gibraltar's best interest. And in this case, I have not a second's doubt that Gibraltar's best interest requires all to vote to remain in the EU.